We've got some new information regarding the sales for BioWare's upcoming game, Dragon Age: The Veilguard. This is coming from Stuttering Craig's inside source, who also provided me with some information regarding how it compares to some other games that recently released, such as Dragon Ball Sparking Zero and Star Wars Outlaws. And these numbers do not look good. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Roll this up over at thatparkplace.com. And Stuttering Craig posted this over on X. He is the host and owner of the Side Scrollers podcast. And he said this: my retail insider says physical copies are not better. He's obviously reacting to an article that I wrote earlier this week regarding the game not being able to get inside that top 50 bestsellers list on Steam. It actually has gotten to that. We'll get to that. But anyways, he says this: my retail insider says physical copies are not better. Between both the gold and standard editions in their 800 plus stores, they have just under 2,000 pre-orders between PlayStation 5 and Xbox. He says PlayStation 5, there are 1,552 pre-orders. Xbox, there are 405. And then in total, there are 1,957 pre-orders. So below 2,000 pre-orders for a game that comes out in about 2 weeks. That does not look good to me whatsoever. It is an increase from the 1,069, though, that he reported back in September, on September 20th. If you recall, he said this: Dragon Age: The Veilguard has 1,069 pre-orders total in their 900 plus stores. And then he compared that to Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, where it had 4,400. I actually got more updated information from a retail insider claiming that those pre-orders for Zelda Echoes of Wisdom was actually around 20,000 because that 4,400 was just in the last 2 weeks. But my insider tells me that Nintendo customers do usually like to purchase physical. They like to get those physical copies. And I can attest to that. When I buy things for Nintendo, I like my physical little chips or whatever you want to call it that you get for the Switch, unless they only allow it on digital, which I think I got for the Gundam SD game. But yeah, so let's get to the information that I got to for this. So this retail insider, who manages over 900 stores, shared with me and That Park Place that these numbers are 3 times less than what Spike Chunsoft's Dragon Ball Sparking Zero did in the lead up to its release on October 10, 2024. So remember, we're looking at 1,957 pre-orders for Dragon Age: The Veilguard. That is 3 times less than Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. The insider shared that Dragon Ball Sparking Zero had a total of 5,952 total pre-orders on the Friday before the game released, October 4th. There were a total of 5,538 PlayStation 5 pre-orders and 414 Xbox pre-orders. So 3 times more than Dragon Age: The Veilguard for this game. And we know that Dragon Ball Sparking Zero sold over 3 million copies in just its first 24 hours. That is what Bandai Namco reported here over on X earlier this week on October 15th, just 2 days ago. And I do want to point this out here, that the insider did share that pre-orders might have actually been higher for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, but they sold out of the Ultimate Edition for PlayStation 5. So it wasn't even available to pre-order at those locations. So that is just absolutely wild there, that number probably would have been a lot higher if they had not sold out of some of those editions. But still, 3 times higher than Dragon Age: The Veilguard. So this is a really interesting point here, because we did get some Star Wars Outlaws data as well, and it's actually higher than Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. And we know Dragon Ball Sparking Zero has already sold more copies. So I do think it kind of shows you the disparity maybe between people purchasing digitally and then obviously purchasing physically now. Obviously, most purchases are done digitally compared to physically. And then obviously, I think maybe it shows you a little bit of disparity in the types of games, the branding of the games that are done as well. So my insider informed me that Star Wars Outlaws pre-orders were only at 6,469. That obviously did indeed beat Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Informed me that there were 5,341 pre-orders for PlayStation 5 and 1,398 for Xbox. We do know that those Star Wars Outlaws sales were softer than expected, because that is what Ubisoft themselves said. And that, in fact, after they announced that, they slashed their net bookings by 30%. Their estimated net sales, basically, for the second quarter, which is when Star Wars Outlaws released. And they estimated that it would go from 500 million euros to between 350 to 370 million euros. Again, 30% decline. And not only did they slash their net bookings for the quarter, but they indicated that its net bookings for the entire year would only hit 1.95 billion euros and around break even non-IFRS operating income and free cash flow. So this company thinks that they're just going to be around break even. They might not even be profitable for this year. We also got an update from the CEO, Yves Guillemot. He was asked this question by Nicholas Langlet of BNP Paribas. So the Q2 guidance, is it only Star Wars Outlaws, or is there something else underperforming in the portfolio? Guillemot responded, it mostly reflects the softer than expected sales for Star Wars Outlaws. We also had behind expectations for X Defiant, which we will give you a bit more detail at the end of October. It was also rumored at the end of September that the game only sold 1 million copies in total, which was far lower than at least one analyst's expectation of 5 million. Grant Taylor-Hill at Insider Gaming said this: we have secured a current sales figure from sources close to the game. At the time of writing, Star Wars Outlaws has just ticked over 1 million sales worldwide. And as I said, that number significantly lower than what market analysts were expecting. Barclays' Nick Dempsey suggested that Ubisoft would sell around 5 million units back during the company's Q1 fiscal year 2024 sales report in May. And he thought that number was conservative given Ubisoft's bullishness on the game, despite multiple warning flags that the game was in trouble. He asked this: when I look at the guidance of Q2, and if I assume something similar for back catalog in Q2 as Q1 of getting to 200 to 230 million euros, that sort of range for the new release Star Wars Outlaws, when I look at the $70 price and then assuming what you might get from it, I'm getting to around 5 million units, something in that sort of bracket. First of all, where could I be going wrong with that thinking? Secondly, are you just being pretty conservative in your guidance? Because I guess given the interest in the game, we might have thought it would be more than 5 million units. So again, like he said, he thought that that was a conservative number, but that is what he came up to when he did some number crunching based on that initial 500 million euro expectation for that Q2. Obviously, now we're looking at just 1 million units, or at least that is what it's rumored from Insider Gaming in a month. And it's not looking good on that. Might have some more information on that in a future article, future video on sales moving forward for Star Wars Outlaws. But so you can see Star Wars Outlaws and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero 3 times the amount of retail pre-orders than Dragon Age, the Veilguard. Not looking good for this game. And I think it kind of reflects what we're seeing digitally as well. If you look at the Steam top sellers list, as I said, it had failed to get into that top 50. That is no longer the case. It did move up to the 42nd position yesterday. And it moved up one spot to the 27th position on the most wishlisted upcoming Steam games. Its follower count has increased to 67,092. You can see that right there in that screenshot that I took yesterday morning. And then if you look back a week ago, you can see here that it was 57th on the top sellers list, and it only had 66,446 followers. And then if you go back a month, it was 38th on the wish list and 80th on the top sellers list right here. And that was taken on September 20th. If you want to look at it right now, we can hop over here. This is the Dragon Age, the Veilguard page for SteamDB. You can see that it's actually kind of fallen down in top sellers. It's down to 49 now, where again, it was at 42 yesterday. So it's almost about to fall out of that top 50 number there. And then 27th still in wish lists. And the reason why it's moved up in wish lists from that September 20th date is because a lot of the games have released. Obviously, we're talking about Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, but you've got Metaphor Fantasio. There's a bunch of others. There's about 8 to 10 of them that actually have released. So that is why it has moved up. It's not really because it's actually jumped up as far as people wish listing this game. It's literally just because games have come out. So those wish lists have been fulfilled, right? People have purchased those games since they have been released. So this is not looking good for this game. I think that the sales for this game are probably might be somewhere similar to what we saw from Star Wars Outlaws digitally. I think this game will perform better than Star Wars Outlaws digitally, obviously, given the fact that it will be releasing on Steam. Outlaws will not release on Steam until later this year. I think it's next month, sometime next month they announced that. But I think that this is that is kind of the case. I think we're still going to see soft sales for this game. It will not. I do not think it will sell better than Inquisition. I've seen numerous people in the comment section who have played all of the Dragon Age games. They're just not interested in what BioWare has done to this franchise, to this game, especially with the heavy hand of political agenda that is in this game. I don't even think they're trying to sell a Dragon Age game. I think they are trying to sell their political agenda, their gender ideology. That is what this game looks like it is trying to sell to me on all fronts. They are not trying to sell an actual video game. They're not trying to sell kind of that dark, grim world that Dragon Age has inhabited for the last 3 entries in it. But that is the information we have. Make of it what you will. I think it lends to the fact that people are not as hyped about this game as what many might expect, and that it could be on pace to do around what Star Wars Outlaws is doing. Obviously, the fact that Star Wars Outlaws had even more retail pre-orders than 3 times more is not a good sign. But again, we'll see if it can make up for that on the digital end. And we know that the digital end does indeed usually sell more. We can see that from Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, where it also had 3 times the amount of Dragon Age the Veilguard pre-orders, but it still had less pre-orders than Star Wars Outlaws on the retail front. But obviously on the digital front, it absolutely walloped it. 3 million sales in the first 24 hours, whereas our estimates for Star Wars Outlaws are just 1 million in a month. So just absolutely crushing that game. And also could be the fact on different age groups potentially purchasing Star Wars over Dragon Age, maybe older generation of people wanting to get those physical copies over maybe a more younger generation with Dragon Age or Dragon Ball wanting to are fine going digitally. I think there could be something to that too, just given the fact that kind of Star Wars has been around much longer than Dragon Ball. But again, let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you think I'm completely off the mark here, or if you agree with me, or if you have a separate analysis on these numbers. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.